Glad to be here for the third time, man. Third time's a charm.
Nice suit, too. You know, like we all got ours from wardrobe, but you're looking clean, my brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I try my best.
Hey, Homicide, when you think of your own situation, what you've been able to do with the Melbourne Tigers, where does the future go from here? You've got only one game left. You play the Breakers on Saturday night. What is that the end of the Homicide with the Tigers, or are you going to be back?
We're going to rebuild for next year. We're in negotiations right now. Hopefully, we can get this thing done before I get on the plane. That's where we're at.
And where are you off to? You apparently heard rumours you're going to go play in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, possibly Puerto Rico. We're just waiting to finalize that deal. So it's more basketball to be played, just somewhere different right now.
And you blokes not joining in?
Rolling?
No. When you think of the Melbourne Tigers, though, and how it's gone, the transition with, of course, Al Westover moving on, as you look back on your time with the club, do you see it as an area where the club's heading in the right direction, or have they got some work to do?
I think, you know, to be truthful, we have some work to do. It's been a tough year from start to finish, and we're basically just trying to, we win this game, we'll be 500 since D-Mac came with our last 10 games, and we're just trying to give the fans and the front office the effort, and hopefully we get this win and then move forward from there.
Okay, we might have to get a little Red Bull there in your cup. You need to perk up a little bit, my brother. Let's talk about some of the teams that didn't make the playoffs.
I mean,
Sydney Kings
talk about not making the playoffs.
Here we go. That's better. Here we go. The Sydney Kings lost 14 in a row. We talk about some of the things that they need to do to make a little bit of noise and maybe make the playoffs next year. But what do you think about the MVP? You know, let's talk about the Sydney Kings.
Let's talk about this. I mean, there's things that we need to discuss, and we need to get it out there. In my opinion, I don't believe you can be in last place and get MVP of a league.
You're talking about Julian Kazoo.
Yeah, he's a good player. He had a great year. But I don't believe you can be MVP of a league with 8 victories. You're in dead last place. How can you get that?
Well, it depends on what you've got around you. I think you've got to assess it on its own merits, though, and say, well, you can have an MVP performance, but if you just don't have the tools around you, then that doesn't necessarily mean to say...
But, I mean, does he have an unfair advantage?
8 games. 8-1 games.
No, I'm saying, okay, well, let's look at the theory behind it. Does he have an unfair advantage because he's playing for a team who depends on him? He gets a lot of touches. He can produce big numbers at a good rate. Does he have... The question I'm asking is...
He got 2 imports. It ain't like it's all Aussies on that team. He has 2 imports. So, you know, they got to carry a bulk of the load as well. I just can't see how you can go past a guy averaging 20 a game and his team is in first place. I just don't see how you can do that.
So, Kirk Penny,
I believe Kirk Penny. My pick was G. Irvin, but he had to make playoffs for me. I believe you have to make playoffs to get MVP consideration.
But with the Kings, though, it's probably, when you look at them and say, although they're going to finish in last place, they've won 7 out of their last 12 games, and they've really turned their season around. So you look at them and say, have got heading in the right direction.
Definitely.
And got some things going.
Madsen's
done very well.
Madsen has definitely done my pick for Rookie of the Year. He's had a really good season, you know, and he's gotten more minutes and more opportunity to play when the other guard left to go back to Italy. I forgot his name right now, but...
He's there, his picture right there.
Yeah, that guy behind us, that guy, D. Ryan. So, you know, it was a good opportunity for him to show what he can do, and he did that. So kudos to him. You know, again, Kazoo's a good player.
So you can win Rookie of the Year in the last place team, but you can't win MVP. Is that what you're saying?
Nah, I believe that. You can't.
Let's move on to the Adelaide 36ers. This is a team that finished with the wooden spoon last year. And then, Jeff, they finished with the wooden spoon again. Now, we had Buddy Naj on here, and he had his opinion on what he thought Marty Clark needed to do in this year as far as improving, and didn't feel like the Adelaide 36ers had made any improvement.
Well, statistically, they haven't. I mean, if they lose the game coming up on the... Well, actually, tonight they became the first team this season to give up 100 points in 2 consecutive games. That's a first. We talked about their horrendous night tonight. They're going to finish actually not last, but virtually equal last. And yet they completely revamped their entire coaching staff, their entire basketball operations, much of their roster, on the premise that last year wasn't very successful. So if you were an Adelaide fan, and I think Buddy Naj was making a point among 100 others that he made, that, you know, they have not had a good year, and yet they have got this new regime in that was supposed to make things better. Now, Marty Clark, I think, is a very good coach. but I think that he hasn't necessarily adjusted to the professional setting. And he's been used to coaching elite juniors, and this is the NBL. This is a different scenario.
He's singing from the same hymn book as Body.
Well, can you judge him on 1 year, though? That's what we were talking about.
Well, how many coaches get the luxury of having 3 or 4 years? Adelaide 36ers fans are used to wins. They're used to playoffs. They're used to great times. They jettisoned Phil Smythe after things finally went down after he'd won a number of championships.
Three young fellas in the team, an emerging outfit. I think that you got to look at the bigger picture with them because of the roster that they put together.
Your team,
we had a whole show on Adelaide before. Let's move on to the Melbourne Tigers. Well, they're looking to sign Corey Homicide Williams. That is definitely a plus for him. But what's come out of this are your young guys. You know, Benny Lewis and Lucas Walker. These guys got an opportunity they probably wouldn't have gotten if the Melbourne Tigers were rolling. So there's some upsides to the Melbourne Tigers. You want to take us through what they're talking about next year? I'm sure, Corey, if they talk to you about coming back, they got to be talking to you about what they're looking to do to improve next year's roster.
We haven't even gotten to that point yet about talking about everybody else because I'm just looking to finalize my situation first. Then we can talk about whatever they want to do after that. So I'm sure they will definitely want to bring the young gunners back, you know, based off of what they've shown. They have the potential to be a force in this league. So we'll just see what happens.
Can they finalise you, though, before they finalise the coach? Now, I think we all agree that Darryl McDonald's done a great job, but as far as I'm aware, they haven't locked him in yet. I would imagine if you're the head coach, you want to pick your imports.
Yeah, definitely. I can't really speak on that because I don't know. All I know is what my situation.
What's the players' feeling about D-Mac?
Oh, we all love Mac. We all love him. I think he's a good leader for us, and we want to play for him. And that's what we've done so far. We've played our asses off for him. Just came up short in a few games. So hopefully he can get that opportunity. He deserves it.
And Lucas Walker has been a revelation the last start of the season. And word is that on the NBL website, he's looking for a date. We've got the MVP Awards night coming up on the 4th of April. You go on the website, check out all the details. But he's also trying to find a date. Now, is he, to me, I mean, he's not an unattractive man.
I mean, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
you know, I don't really look at him that way.
He should get
He's
a date.
a wild dude.
He should be able to get a date. Let's move to the Gold Coast. He should be able to get a date. He's a professional athlete.
Mate, he's on the website. They put out posters. Please get him a date.
Let's move on to the Gold Coast. This is a team that had some promise. They can put some points on the board. They had so many injuries, suffered through a lot of adversity. But the guys that they did get on the roster, once they had injured players, you know, they had injured imports, but, you know, they get Ira Clark. So, you know, that's a pretty good replacement. So their personnel at times looked pretty good. So they weren't able to get there. But what do they need to do now after they've sustained and been able to make adjustments and have all those injuries and try and come up and have a winning season next year?
Well, there's a lot of things that come to mind when you talk about Gold Coast. They'd be disappointed. Owen Tomlinson, I would assume, would be disappointed. They poured a great deal of resources into trying to get crowds there. They do everything right. If you go to a Gold Coast Blaze game, it's a good night and it's well run. But unfortunately, they haven't had the consistency of performance. Some of that's been injury related. Some of it hasn't. All I know is the expectations there should be that they'll be a playoff team next season.
All right, let's go right to the Wollongong Hawks. This is a team that, my goodness, they were in first place at one point, and they had a couple of injuries. A key one to Glenn Saville, of course, but that man right there was just carving the league up in the early stages of the year. Had a groin injury, and that wasn't, you know, too publicized, but, you know, just, you know, you talk about one guy making a difference. He was unbelievable this year, Gary Irvin.
Gary Irvin's a ball player, fellow New Yorker like myself, Brooklyn native. And he was flat out getting it done. It was just the patch that they hit when the biggest key to their team was that man right there, Sav.
Absolutely.
You know, he's their point forward, and without him, they lost a lot of leadership out there.
Well, what about the Wollongong Hawks? Everyone puts their hand up and identifies injuries. The Melbourne Tigers that do that. How much credence do you put in their circumstances towards it? We know Sav, and they had their injury run, but they were 9-2 and then they won, I think, 10 out of 12 games. They lost 10 out of 12 games.
Yeah, that sucks as well. I mean, you know, when
yeah, it does.
When a player goes down, other players got to step up, and unfortunately for them, when you get into a hole like that with losses, I mean, you can't get into the playoffs. So that's basically what happened.
But do they keep that similar roster, or they try and pick up some players?
I believe they
good
keep
enough to
that
win?
same roster. I mean, they just think before those injuries, they were rolling. They were rolling. So I'd keep the same roster.
All right, we'll get back to more of that. Don't go away because Homicide just got here. And in the next segment, we got the NBA and the Final Four. It's all coming up on Overtime.